Okay, hopefully third time's a charm. Sorry, I was having some crackling audio there, but hopefully that is fixed now. Let's see if that worked. If anyone's in here already, give me a thumbs up if the audio's going okay. Time's a charm. Sorry, I was having some crackling. All right, on my end it sounds like it's good. So, anyways, all right, welcome everyone. I just kind of wanted to talk about the reMarkable Paper Pro today, and I have a actual kind of agenda of things I want to talk about, but feel free to chime in the chat at any point if you have any questions, or if you are a reMarkable Paper Pro user and you have something that you would like to kind of get across, or something that you've noticed in the last month or so that you've been using it. So, all right, thanks, Natasha. Appreciate you letting me know that it's working now. Anyways, this is the reMarkable Paper Pro. I've been using it since it came out, and I've had a pretty enjoyable experience with it so far. I didn't really know how much I was going to be using color and how useful it was going to be to me because I've typically just been a black and white or like monochrome note taker. And the few times I use color is typically for highlighting like documents or maybe books or something like that. So I was kind of playing around recently and seeing how I could integrate the actual Torleif. Nice, thank you. Appreciate the thumbs up. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. But I was playing around with how I could actually use color in my note taking. And so this is, you can see the flashing there of the colors. This is something I was around with the how useful it would be for my note taking. And while I do think in certain scenarios it can be useful, in some scenarios I think it's also a little bit distracting because if you have like just black and white note taking, you get less of that flashing on the screen. And so that really only comes into play when you're changing things or when you're like panning and zooming like this. That is something kind of noticeable. Also, one thing I watched a video on the reMarkable Paper Pro yesterday, and I found it like a little tougher. I don't know, just or maybe different than my reMarkable in terms of like panning around and stuff. And then I read in a comment or something, someone was like, "You're probably putting too much pressure on the screen, so you just have to do it really lightly." And once I've been trying that, it's just worked a lot better, especially with the pinch and zoom. So I was having a lot of issues with pinch and zoom where, like you see there, it goes from like 0 to the maximum, but if you do it lightly, it's much easier to get that granularity there. And so that was a really useful tip that if you're a user or if you're planning on buying one, I'd highly recommend just doing a very light touch for any kind of manipulation of the page that you're going to be doing. And so, yeah, this let me go to some color here. I'm sure a lot of you, if you're watching this, you've seen kind of how the flashing goes, but I'll just go on a marker tool here and just show you like, so it renders initially in a different color and then it flashes and displays the final color that it has. And the erase as well. So if I erase this, it does a localized flash instead of flashing the whole screen. And so it is good at doing those flashes just in that area. So it's not as noticeable, but when you do a page scroll of some sort, you see everything goes dark and then the color pops out. So just slightly different in that sense. But let me go back. I was talking about in the stream that I had to turn off because the audio was bad. I was talking about here for example. This was on the Supernote A5X, but they just added a new software feature. So if I go to the settings here, you can see this software was updated yesterday. I think they released a new beta, but I typically don't like the betas because I'm not like that desperate to try the new features, and found some software instabilities before. So the new one they added is here. I think they've added some Dropbox and stuff or Google Drive stuff, but if you now hold the lasso tool, it'll give you this option to select below. And so it just highlighted everything below and quickly did that instead of you having to kind of loop around things. So that's just a usability thing that is kind of useful, and I'll definitely be using going forward. This is the first time I was kind of trying it here. But just to give you, maybe let's go into some color renderings, sample color renderings. So one thing I've noticed is that it occasionally loses a little bit of the actual resolution, I think, when you import a PDF. But let me go here and we can do a little comparison. So this is a turtles. Hopefully you can see the color kind of coming through. But let me find the same page on here. Okay, let's go back to the beginning here. And yeah, I think we're close. Okay, here we go. So this should give you, let me get this in screen here. Move it over a little. And let's get this reflection a little out of the way. There we go. So in terms of Kaleido, let me turn the brightness up here a little. And let's get the brightness, I think it's off right now on the Paper Pro. That's something I'll talk about too, the backlight. Okay, that is a pretty, and sorry, the resolution, it's a little squished out here, but you'll see in terms of the color, the one thing I really notice about Gallery 3 is that the greens are not very pronounced. They're a more muted green, and they look like almost like a armory like military green. And on Kaleido 3, for example, they're a much like richer, darker green. But in terms of the colors, like the purple is definitely more defined, as you can see on Donatello here. And then one area that you do a little more granularity is here, for example, on Splinter. The maroon and the brown, they kind of look the same. And while they do kind of look the same here, you get a little more texture in between them. And the TV here, for example, is something you can really notice. And that's like very kind of gray here, whereas here you get a lot of difference between this side and that side in terms of the shades. And just for reference, I'll show you here. We can compare this as well. So just the TV here. You can see it's like a purple here, and it goes to like a blue-gray here. And then here you get some of that contrast, whereas here it just kind of all looks gray. And this should give you a little bit of reference for the vibrancy of colors. So Splinter, like I was talking about, the maroons on either of them is nowhere near the actual here. And yeah, hopefully in the stream it's coming across in detail. I know it's not 4K, so I will definitely, when I do my like full review, I will show, or maybe I'll do a comparison of Gallery, Kaleido, and stuff in real life, and then I'll show that in 4K so you can hopefully see it a little bit better. But that's just something that it's very nitpicky, and like, to be honest, I was hoping that the gallery screen would be like worlds better than Kaleido, but sorry, I lost the camera here. But in my opinion, it's just different. I don't find it particularly worse or better. Like the one thing I think is the blues and the yellows specifically on the reMarkable Paper Pro. They do look more vibrant. So the Kaleido screen has kind of a difficult time representing yellows, whereas that's like probably the biggest strong suit of gallery is the yellow here you can see. Like look at Donatello's chest plate there. It's more of a muted kind of like gray, yellow, orange on this. And let's just do another page for reference. Here, for example, right? The his VR goggles, they are rather almost like I don't know, it's like a brown, yellow, gray here, whereas here they're like a vibrant yellow. And I mean that can be a downside too, because like you can see like Mikey here. Yeah, is that Raphael? I think that's Raphael. Yeah, sorry, Mikey here, the orange. Um, that really looks yellow. It doesn't look orange at all. You can see it matches his face or chest plate, and just doesn't really look that different. But the blue looks more of like a dark blue, whereas this is a little bit more of a vibrant blue slash like almost a purple. And the purple here looks like a very faint light purple, whereas here it's actually more purple. Um, the new beta is supposed to give better colors. I'm not in beta. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I saw they I think I read on Reddit they maybe adjusted the contrast filter. I think so it's like it can be localized where if if you're not sure what the contrast filter is, I think like for this for example, I'll show you let's pop it here and then I can do apply contrast filter. So go on and you'll see everything got a lot darker. It's optimized for text, and but then like look at these, like they get super washed out in terms of the darkness contrast. And so like for this I would not want to use that. I would turn it off. Actually, let's see what automatic does for this one. It turns it on. Okay, so yeah, I would keep it off. That is hopefully Turleif, that's hopefully something that would be resolved in that beta that they're talking about. I haven't tried it, nor am I going to try it until it comes out. But I think if they can localize, so if they could localize like where the text is, and then have this not have the contrast filter, that would be pretty cool because then it would make it just much more usable in that sense. And then that auto feature is something I'd probably keep on. Right now I kind of turn it on or off as I need it. All right. If anyone's joining currently, I'm kind of just going through some things about the reMarkable Paper Pro that I've noticed, but feel free to chime in if you have any questions, and I will try to answer them. So the next thing I want to talk about, let's go here. So anyways, any questions about Gallery versus Kaleido here? That is just brief demo here. Like I said, I'll definitely go into more detail about this. And then one thing that I was really hoping they had was a fingerprint sensor. That's something that on the VWoods you'll see it's just immediate, and I feel like for something that's a pro level device, that's something it should have had. But currently the option is that you need to put in your passcode. I think it was set to 6 by default, but I did notice that in the new beta they meant, or in the new software they mentioned that you can do 4, 6, or 8 depending on the level of security you want. So it is customizable in that sense. And then actually here's another little comparison we could do. So this should give you a little sense of, let's see, yeah. I mean, yeah, the yellow is going to come across as way more vibrant for sure. But you can see the green Let me get my stylus here. And guys, I do have the brightness all the way up here. So the green, that's another thing. I think Khalid mentioned in a video he did that there is a hack you can do to get the brightness up. I think it goes from like 4 nits to 8 nits. So it's still not insanely bright, but much brighter than it currently gets. The front light I've actually had like pretty good a good experience with, I think. I think it should get like maybe a tiny bit brighter. I've in the scenarios where I'm using the front light, I haven't found that that's been an issue. But the one thing I'll say about it is anything below 3 and like the granularity between these two should be better. It like 1 is unusable. It's really nothing to to use at all. 2, like if I'm in a very like pitch black scenario, I've found maybe 2 is good, but I typically kind of stay between like 4 and 5 because those seem to be, and the difference between 4 and 5, like I feel like 4 should be at the 3 and then there should be a 4 that's like in between the brightest and that. So I'm hoping that in a beta update or the next update or something, they like actually tweak the front light because it's clear that it is able to get brighter. You know, Khalid showed that there was a hack that some people did. I'm likely not going to do that because I've found it fine for my needs. But yeah, that could use a little bit of adjustment in my opinion. And it is relatively consistent in my kind of viewing. Yeah, there we go, less glare. So anyways, this is a very dark blue. On here, it almost looks black. This is different, but you can see if you kind of compare this to that right there, it is less vibrant, but cyan does look blue, like pretty blue on and good on here. Then a weak point for sure is reds. So I didn't mean to draw there, but I can show you something here. Like, oh, hold on. Does your marker plus feel like the casing is loose from the inner? I feel it in the front of my pen with my index finger while pressing. So, okay, I'm looking at it now. Are you saying right here, like you feel like the inner tube part that holds the nib is loose? Because for my experience, Torloff, if you can chime in, from my experience, I do not get that sensation on here. Mine feels pretty solid. But if that's something you're dealing with, then I would consider reaching out to reMarkable and maybe getting a replacement, because that I don't think that's normal. At least I don't have it on mine. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go back to my notes here. So this is actually, where's my reMarkable? Here we go. Here's my reMarkable 2. Okay. So on my reMarkable 2, like these are actually things, all these colors you see, except for this one, I think I added this after, but like these are all actual like notes I took on the reMarkable 2. And I used like the highlighter when the highlighter had color, when the reMarkable didn't have color. I could probably show you in the app really quickly. But the reason I did all that was because I was like, oh, when I look in the app here, it actually looked pretty cool. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll color code it just so specifically when I look in the app, you know, it's there. And so reMarkable app got an update too. And so I was like, oh, it looks, you know, super cool in here. And then when I got the reMarkable Paper Pro, I was like interested to see like, okay, how are my notes gonna look on the Paper Pro? And I was actually pretty disappointed in the reds. They look almost like orange pink, and that's something that's like pervasive throughout the whole device. It doesn't matter what viewing thing I'm looking at. Like if I go to, I think I have Spider-Man. So this is, you know, this should be like a very clear image of how you get red. And if you look at Spidey here, it's I think they mentioned in the reMarkable announcement, they were like, it's like a newspaper's printing itself in front of your eyes. And that actually is what it feels like because everything's very muted and very kind of grainy. I've almost found Kaleido less grainy, but I don't know. Maybe that's just because I'm using it on a smaller 7.8-inch screen, but it looks like sharper in here, especially the text and everything. But that is something that, yeah, the reds, like they're not bad, but I was just disappointed because of the app when I expected it to be kind of, very vibrant. But and they say this version of Gallery is supposed to have 20,000 colors. I think the original version of Gallery had 50,000 on the Big Me Galley 3, but clearly that was a flop of a device, and the way you can get Gallery to be usable, I think, is limiting the colors. So okay, we'll get some more. Okay, Torleif. Yes, in the front, but it's not a big deal. But if it loosens more, it might be a problem. Okay, so remember that you have a 100-day kind of guarantee or warranty on that stuff. If you're already noticing it, the recommendation would be to get a replacement, just because if in 6 months to a year it gets worse, it's an expensive marker, right? And then you're going to be out of luck and you're not going to be able to replace it. So if it's something that's bothering you now, I would likely just get a replacement now. And then I am in dev mode and have enabled the brightness hack. It makes a big difference. Okay, good to know. Yeah, that, maybe I'll play around with it. That's interesting because it is, yeah, it's really not very bright. So, but like I said, it hasn't bothered me in the scenarios where I need to use it. But that being said, I feel like there's those scenarios like actually like maybe in this room where I have lights, shining here now so you can see stuff better, but like there's only a little bit of sunlight coming outside, and like it's a scenario where the ambient lighting isn't great, but the actual like light, if I have that on full blast, is still not adding that much to it. So that might be a scenario where like having it be more bright could be good. And Turleif, how'd you find the install experience? It was I was looking at doing a custom like sleep screen because I'm like, now that I have color, it'd be cool to have like color images displayed here when it's sleeping. But the actual process looked pretty long. I might still do it, but I had like 20 minutes and I was like, okay, this might be more involved than I thought. And let's see. Yep. Sorry, I have to enter this passcode again. But yeah, I'll just scroll through here. So you can see this is better contrast between the white and the dark here. But the red is more of like a pink kind of orange. And the one thing that is good though is the magenta. So there you can see. Let's see, I think this is the beginning page. Yeah, but let me zoom in here. See the refresh time. The magenta or like the pink is very good on here. So I've actually found that like certain colors are more suited for Gallery 3 or this implementation of Gallery 3. And in general, I think for my reading experience, I've actually preferred Kaleido, but for drawing, this has definitely been much better. And so maybe that'll segue into drawing here. So right now I'm working on a kind of review of the Meta smart glasses. I already reviewed them, but I'm doing the AI specifically now. And so let me switch this to portrait. And I can show you a little bit about drawing on here. And I do intend to do like a full video on drawing, but so this is some of that granularity of zooming I was telling you about. So all right, now I'll show you quickly just the layers I did here. So let's turn some of these off. So I think I did the outline, and then I accidentally did some dithering on there. But then I did one base layer, and then I did the was it? Yeah, okay. And then this last one, I think I did the reflection of the glasses. And so I actually, you know, that's probably one of the things I've enjoyed the most on here is drawing because the shading or the way of shading, like with the shade tool here. So I'll show you just a quick example. Like I could probably let's make sure we're on the right layer here. I could clean this up a little. So let's get the thickest. So I'll get this a little more even here. But here, the blending is pretty neat. It's something that I've had to play around with because, well, yes, it does feel a little bit like you're using colored pencils in terms of like the blending. It's not exactly 100% the same, and it's less it's a little less granular, but has been pretty cool. And I do intend to do a lot more drawing on it because that's typically like I once in a while will draw with colored pencils, but very like unlikely that I would do that. I'm typically more of a black and white note taker or drawer, sorry. And so I've showed these before, but like sketching on here, I'm kind of more at home with black and white drawing. And it's just kind of what I grew up using and is more comfortable for me. So did I lose a sketch? Oh, maybe I just turned off the layers. Yeah, I did. Okay. So the thing about sketching on here though is that also like the and we'll get to this in a second, but the new stylus and maybe I'm at the point where now I'm like a month or month and a half and I need to change the stylus. But there were points where, or maybe I need to kind of calibrate it a little bit more. But there were points like in this where you're like very fine lined. Where let me get to like a very thin fine liner in black. Where like I want to start on this point, and I almost feel like it's a little bit like before where I'm pressing down. So I feel like my mind's like kind of calibrated to that, and I now know to like start a little like sooner on the actual contour of where I need to go. But that's something I've noticed where whereas on the Nomad when I sketch with the really fine tip, I feel like it feels a little more precise. Like where I'm pressing is exactly where the line is going to show up. But that's not a it hasn't been a big deal. It's only in those circumstances where I'm getting like really fine like contouring or something. But for the like general sketching where if I'm just using like pencil and let's go medium, then the actual shading has been very good, and it feels pretty precise, and the pressure sensitivity and tilt is very good in general. And so that's one thing too. When you're just using black and white on a colored page, everything does take a little bit longer, just because it's kind of re-rendering that stuff, and when it does full page refreshes, that kind of just happens in general. Okay, Turleaf, let's see what you're saying. So also I have custom sleep on off screen. The reMarkable thread in Discord is very helpful. Yeah, I think I saw some of those. I'm a Linux user and easy if you have a little Linux knowledge. I do too. I'm not like concerned that I wouldn't know how to do it. I just it's like for something as simple as a sleep screen, I was like, okay, I had like 20, 30 minutes, and I was like looking into it, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a little more involved. So I'm going to take, if I do want to change the sleep screen, because I think having color now is really cool for a sleep screen. And like, come on, reMarkable, you gotta, they should just add that, right? Like that should be as easy as importing a PDF or a JPEG and just allow all users to do it. I understand maybe that they love having their branding, like, and now we're in landscape. They love having their branding here, but like allow people to upload an image and still keep the branding or something. That's uh, something that is very very simple to do, and I don't think would like go against their product. It would just make people like it more, I think. Yeah. um, but yeah, I will try that for sure. But good to know about the front light. I'll definitely give that a go as well. And then actually, let's go to the same note here. So like I was mentioning earlier, I've been trying to kind of like, let's get out of landscape. Oh no, what did I just do? Oh, I just added a page. Okay. So yeah, I've been trying to play around with color in my note taking and drawing and all that, and I do find it a little distracting sometimes because when I'm shifting, it just like has to do the reflash. But it is cool. Like I have been enjoying it. I'm still like I don't know if I'm gonna continue or like change my note taking style to always be in color just because I now have color, because that is one thing. So like this page, for example, you'll see it does the reflash. I'm actually curious. Let's just do a quick test, because if you just do black and white, I know the black renders much faster, right? So let's do a test. 1, 2, 3, and let's just zoom. So you see there, it doesn't do the flash, right? It's quick, it's effective, and so like you do end up making a compromise for color note taking. Whereas this is just fluid, it feels much less like e-ink. Whereas anything I do here, it takes a second, and it doesn't really feel like pro level at that point, in my opinion. But that being said, I get it. Like some people, they are very ingrained in color note taking, and so this is like besides maybe the Note Air 4C or the Tab Ultra C Pro, and maybe some like the Big Me or pocketbook devices, this is like some of your best option for color note taking. Turleif, thanks for the comments. Appreciate it. Um, yeah, tune in later, and if you have any other questions or comments, leave them in the comment in the replay, and I'll try to get to them. But that is kind of yeah, a recap of like note taking in color. Now, for anyone else joining, we haven't talked about the stylus yet. Only maybe an issue that Turleif was having, but overall thoughts on the stylus. It is, I think, good for note taking. It is much improved in. Let me say this: the note taking experience is improved over the reMarkable. So, like, let me go to a brand new note. Let's just go to a kick sheet. So I'm just going to write my name. There is definitely more anti-aliasing that happens here. What are we in, the thick marker? Yeah, I feel like there's a little more anti-aliasing that happens here, and I've found that my handwriting is generally better than what the stock RM2 was like. My RM2 is not stock anymore because I did put Feel Right 2 on it, so I can write with like this is a titanium tip and this is a ceramic nib, so I can now write with these, and it's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about scratching it, and I do prefer the feel. So that's one thing. The feel, I think, in general, the writing feel has improved on the RM2, but the one downside of that is that it's because it's like a very hard glass and a hard tip. You do get that tapping sound. I'll get my mic a little closer. So you do get tapping there, and some people that they find that annoying. I haven't found it the most annoying, but it is noticeable for sure. The other noise related thing is the coil whine, and that's something I've only noticed in the like very quiet scenarios I've been in, like no sound whatsoever, and it's just like incredibly quiet in the room. Then I do notice the coil whine, and I think it's mostly when you're refreshing like color pages that I've noticed it. So for example, if I'm looking at a comic or a book that's in color and I scroll page, when it is that full like page refresh to a new page, then I notice it. But in general, I don't think it has. But okay, back to the stylus. The weight feels good. It's a little bit heavier than the reMarkable. This is a grip I have on it. Than the reMarkable 2 marker, but the texture, it almost feels like the reMarkable 2 marker. The Marker Plus has good texture. This feels like it has almost more texture, and so the grip is good on it in general. The thickness, I think, is almost identical in terms of the reMarkable 2 marker. But the eraser, I do like that they made it a little smaller. I don't know if you can see that, but this one takes the full width of the pen. This one is kind of like your mechanical pencil. When you pull off the back cap, it feels like a smaller eraser, and I do find that's better for a little bit of granularity when you're actually erasing here. And the groove they have to attach it is the same. The magnets are much better now. Like, it's nice that they added the little flap here that you can kind of lock it in, but the actual magnets are so strong now that I've never had it just like randomly dislodge from the tablet, kind of like the reMarkable. Whereas this, I can pop off super easily. See that? I have to put a lot of pressure, and so that's good. The flap is quite a nice design. It's a little bit similar to the V-Woods here, where you can pop this out, and then it uses the magnet and the loop, so there's no risk of losing it pretty much, because I've definitely lost markers on here, and they tend to fall off 95% of the time when you're pulling it in and out of a bag. So yeah, anyways, the active USI, that is something that I am not like the hugest fan of, because I have a large collection of pens and now I can't use any of them on here. But that being said, the general like accuracy of this is pretty good. The only thing is, I'm sure if you've seen videos on the reMarkable, the actual straight lines, so you get wobble in there. And most people are going to be like, yep, why can't you do a straight line like that? And yeah, you can, and I do find that very useful for a lot of the note taking I do when I want to structure things or like create little diagrams, like some of these lines here, or these lines, or this text, or these lines and these and all that. So it is useful, but overall, oh, I thought I erased this. Maybe I redid something. Anyways, the and why this might come into play is when you are actually drawing. You know, if you're trying to draw like a circle, you get some random wobble in there. I'm not saying I drew a perfect circle there by any means, but it does introduce a little bit of wobble. And so that is something for sketching I have noticed. But if I just do like, instead of doing a big arc like that where I'm going to get a lot of wobble, I feel like if I do kind of contoured stuff like that, I can get it a little straighter looking. And then you can go in and you can zoom and you can clean stuff up like that. So there's ways around it, but that is one of the downsides, I think, of the USI pen. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. I think they, and I talked about this with some other people, but I believe that they had to go to the USI standard because they didn't want to add a Wacom layer, because the brightness of the, or sorry, not brightness, the thickness of the screen went down like 20 something micrometers. And if they had kept the Wacom layer with the additional front light, it would have gone up from the reMarkable 2. And that would not be very reMarkable-esque, going from an actual device that's, thinner and would have a thinner like layer to the pen to paper. So that is, I think, why they went to the USI standard. But like my only complaint about it is maybe that as a battery, and I mentioned this before, but we'll see how that repairability comes into play, because maybe I mean, it doesn't discharge that quickly. You can see the battery meter here, but over maybe a 5-year period, maybe you will have to get it replaced. Who knows? And so that repairability remains to be seen. But reMarkable has said that their devices are now easier to replace components from. So we'll see about the marker, maybe when someone does a teardown of that. So in all intents and purposes, I think it's good. The only downside is maybe the USI wobble and that little tapping sound that you get, and the fact that you can't use other Wacom EMRs that you might own already. Any other questions about the stylus before we move on to something else? Okay, so one thing I did want to look at was, maybe let's go to the app. See if I can pull that up here. Actually, let me try screen sharing. I haven't done it on the Paper Pro yet. I've done it on the reMarkable 2, except okay. So yeah, actually this is good. You can see hopefully the wobble better. So can you see that? Like right over here, you can see a lot of wobble. And I'm actually curious. Okay, so I haven't screen shared on the Paper Pro. Let's see how the color renders. Yeah, okay, so it renders like it does in the app. So you can see stuff a little bit better here. Oh, this is pretty cool. The latency, let me say, okay, so I'm dragging up now. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good latency. And for the specs, it has more RAM, it has higher like throughput RAM. So I think it's DDR, was it 4 versus maybe the old one was like 3 or something like that. And then it has obviously more storage and a faster processor. But yeah, the app sync looks pretty good. All right, so yeah, that's a little implementation of how it looks. Now let me go to the actual app. Okay. So maybe compare some of the color here. So this is the OP1, the synthesizer, and now I will switch to, you can see kind of the colors there and the renditions of everything, and now I'll switch to what it's like in real life here. Get it out. It might be hard to see, but when it refreshes, you can see the colors here, there, and then these don't really have color, but here's the orange. The orange looks pretty decent. And I think that's all the color here. Yeah, one thing I was actually surprised with was so I showed you these glasses, right? Was like how different the dithering looks. I think I comment or made a community post about this, but if you look here, like the dithering looks relatively smoother here, and the gradations are less noticeable, but it's really noticeable. So let me share the screen again. Here, it's really noticeable, like here and here and then here. It looks like, I was using completely different colors and they don't blend as well. I mean, I was using blue and cyan, but it's funny because when you do it on the Paper Pro, those kind of blend into colors that provide smooth gradations. Like, maybe, I don't know, hope you can see here, but like this part's lighter than here, it's darker in the middle, like it is in this. And so that was something I was kind of surprised with. And just like the tones of colors, they pop way more here, but that is, I guess, to be expected with the ink, right? So, all right, let me exit the app here. But yeah, I do like the reMarkable app. I love the fact that it kind of syncs right away. And actually, let's try like device syncing. So I'm curious if I go into, let's just go into a random doc. Actually, let's go here, quick sheets. I'm kind of curious. This is the same document. I didn't write this here. But actually, yeah, so here's an example of where I can see like maybe I can show you. And remember, this was written on the reMarkable 2. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, no, it looks about the same. Yeah, some of the anti-aliasing here looks better. Like it looks a little smoother here. So just interesting how it looks device to device. Because remember, this is 226 and this is 229 PPI. So relatively similar. But let's see how quick sync works. Hopefully I don't shoot myself in the foot here and it doesn't work at all, but RM Paper Pro. Let's just make sure Wi-Fi is on. Yep, we are on, and we are on here. And then let's do something down here. And we'll see if that even, I don't know if it even will load while the note's taken. I'm sure if I back out and go back in, it'll work. But let's see. Is there a manual? I feel like there's a manual one you can do, right? No. Okay, back out here. And go up. So it just synced. So it synced that. Oh, okay. So maybe it only syncs on document close. So watch, if I close this and go back in, it's synced, and now it just showed up there. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yeah, like I said, the app is good. I do find the sync to be very good when you're importing stuff from your phone here, or if you're just kind of working from device to device, it works quite well. So if you're someone that has a reMarkable 1 or a reMarkable 2 and you're wondering about that, that is Something good to know. All right, now let's go back. Let me see. Do we have any other questions? All right, what else do we have on the agenda here? Yeah, one thing I've noticed is, okay, so if I go here, the double tap, oh, I guess because I just opened it. All right, I'll test here though. So the double tap works well when you're just in, and the triple tap, by the way, redoes, right? So it works well when you're just in black and white, but I have noticed sometimes when I have color in there and I'm doing the double tap, it like starts flashing and then it like doesn't register the input, or it just takes a while to register it. Whereas on the reMarkable Paper Pro, the double tap and all that seems to work much better, and I feel like it's almost quicker too, which is kind of surprising. It could be due to the layer of the capacitive touch that they're using. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's something I've noticed from the reMarkable Paper Pro. Here is a quick just color rendition. Actually, I'll show you. So where is it? reMarkable. Oh, I'm using the wrong marker on it now. So yeah, that's an example of where the markers you might want to use might not work on it. But here we go. So here, I'll zoom in on this. Here is a representation of all the colors on it. They look pretty good. The green, like I said, is probably the one I was most disappointed, or the red, because this looks like just like not a very pleasant color of green, and it's almost impossible to get it to be a more vibrant green. And then the red, like I mentioned, is kind of almost looks like, I feel like salmon is a good word to describe it. It's like a salmon color. So, but the blue looks great. The cyan is probably my favorite color on here. Uh, Magenta looks good. Yellows are very vibrant, which for a proper yellow highlight is very good. And then the clear, like the contrast, is not as good on this, but is less of an issue than I thought. When I maybe you can see, and by the way, this is not a perfect one-to-one comparison, just because I do have Feel-Right 2 on this. Oh, that's funny. So it just synced the on document close. It synced the other one. But yeah, gray, like the Carta, I think it's Carta 1000 or like 1100 or something. So it is a little more gray, but that is one thing that I thought I was going to have issues with the reMarkable Paper Pro, but I have not. And the black also, I had read or saw a lot of content before I got it where they were like, oh, it seems the black is more like a dark blue. And while, yes, it is not nearly as black as on Carta, I really have not been bothered by it. Like, I think when you have the light off and you're in broad daylight, it does look pretty black. The one time I've noticed where it looks more blue is in like really dark scenarios. Maybe I can show you here. Let me turn this off. And I'll turn this off. It's going to get a little dark here. So I don't know if it's coming through at all. And it still doesn't look that dark blue, but in the lighting it should look a little more bluish because I do have the front light fully on. And I think maybe that's also because these reflect pixels, the front light is a little more white on the scale in terms of like it's not a very warm front light. So I have not really been bothered by the fact that it is not a pure black. Just FYI, if that's something that you were concerned with. Oops, sorry. That's another thing. I feel like the placement here, I always accidentally tap it. Maybe that's just because I'm a righty. And I have my pen in my right hand, and then I like reach for there. Anyways, so these are the colors. All right, we got another comment. Can you use Excel sheets on this? Calculations and all. No, I don't believe you can. That is, if you're looking for something that can really do that, then I would probably point you to the Books platform. The probably one of the better ones is probably like the Note Air 4C, even the Note Max they just released, that has Book Super Refresh. It's only black and white, but it does have a keyboard as well. Or the Tab Ultra C Pro. That's something that has Kaleido 3, so it has color, and it does have a keyboard and has a pretty fast processor. So if you're looking for something like that, then I would point you in the direction of probably the Books platform. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a little rendition of the coloring here. And then what else was I talking about? The blacks. Yeah, so the black you only notice in kind of maybe the dark when it's not super contrasty and you have that front light on full blast, then maybe it might look a little less, more blue or like dark blue, but in my eyes it looks relatively black, but not as black as Carta. Torella, you're looking to have like direct Google Excel Sheets integration, right? Because I think and you still need to test it on here, but the VWoods does, I believe, work. So I'm gonna, when I do my full review of this, or I'm gonna do a few more videos on this before I do the full review, I will likely try to install the Excel apps in here and see how well they work. This is a Carta 1300 screen, so actually here should be an interesting comparison. Let's go to just note taking. And this should give you a real comparison of what the best gallery screen can do and what the best Carta 1300 screen can do in terms of actual black representation. So let's go to a dock here. It's mostly black and white. Okay. So let's get it up here. I don't know if it's coming across, but the contrast between the back and the dark text versus the back and the dark text here is better. It might not come across fully on camera, but it is better. Let me do a refresh here too. That is one thing I've noticed on the Paper Pro. That's a big difference from the RM2 is the refreshes. You do significantly get less ghosting on here. And so yeah, like I said, this isn't in 4K, it's 1080p, so it might not come across fully, but hopefully you can see the color tone difference where the white here, just activating AI here, the white here, it's still a gray, but the back white is better than the gray here in terms of contrast. But this does have a front light, so it's something you can kind of counteract. And yeah, that should, I think that's pretty much everything that I had to discuss on the RM Paper Pro. So I'll open it up to any questions you guys have now. I know we've got a couple through the live stream, but if there's anything else you guys would like to discuss before we end the live stream, I'm game to answer anything that you might have. But anyways, if not, then happy Halloween, everyone, and I hope this was helpful for you. And yeah, if you have any more questions, you can always drop them down in the chat below or the comments below, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, I think the first video I'm going to do on this is going to be drawing because that's something I've been really enjoying, and I want to do some more like in-depth detailed drawings. And then I'll probably maybe do like a gallery Kaleido, um, real, like, I don't know, newspaper magazine comparison, and then probably do like a long-term review at some point as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So last call for any questions. If you guys have any, leave them in the chat, and I will get to it. But yeah, bottom line, I've been enjoying it more than I thought I was going to. Like, I was excited for it because I was like, whoa, gallery's back and alive. For those of you that don't know, like the Big Me Galley 3, when that came out, it was probably, I think it was the only device that had gallery. So much so as like, here, let me go to, if you go to e-ink's like gallery website, they now show, I think, the Paper Pro, but the yeah, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, the original image here, I think that is the Big Me Galley, and that was a pretty big flop of a device because the software experience was bad, the flashing was just like insane on it, and so what reMarkable's really figured out here with the Paper Pro was not like they didn't reinvent the wheel and get like a whole new display, but they took the time to really tune Gallery 3. And so they are using, I think, less colors, because in using less colors it makes it less complex to actually kind of move and render the colors. But it also, I think the big thing they have here, that I think Voya had mentioned, my deep guide in his like not he mentioned it in his review too, but like in his initial thing where he got like a hands-on before it happened, he mentioned how they're doing like very like localized um, re-rendering for like removing ghosting and all that, and that's something that is kind of noticeable here. So yeah, what reMarkable's done, um, you know, I think they kind of came out of left field where like most people were expecting a reMarkable 3, so something simple that was just going to be like Carta 1300 and like a little bit of a bigger screen, faster specs, and like maybe a slightly different design. Also, the V-Woods and the Paper Pro do look very similar, right? They have like the same bottom chin, small bezels, and oh, sorry. And that's actually another thing that I didn't really mention. The size. I think that this renders a lot of A4 sized tablets kind of useless, because 11.8, this is 10.65, this is 11.8, so you can get a reference. You know, this is bigger than the reMarkable 2, even though spec like thinness and height wise, it's pretty much, I think, smaller. It's a little taller, but much thinner because of that side part. But it is noticeably the screen's a little bit bigger than the RM2, but 11.8 inches is like really kind of sweet spot. And I think a lot of people that are like, oh, I love a massive screen like an A4 size, the 11.8 inch size is actually a really nice sweet spot, because I can fit it in certain bags where I know like there's no means that I could sneak an A4 size thing in there in like the little sleeves, and the reMarkable Paper Pro has fit in all them. So that's something that I wasn't 100% expecting to really love, but the form factor and the size is nice. It gives you that little bit of extra space when note taking, so you're not scrolling around as much. And when you're reading stuff, it's not like overly gigantic, so it's like cumbersome, but it is relatively good size, and just really nice, you know. Oh, Zenless. Yeah, no worries, man. You can check out the video after, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment. I'll get back to you. But yeah, so the size is one of the things I've been most kind of appreciative of. It's just a really good compromise. It can be a little big in some scenarios. Like I was on a plane last week, and it didn't feel bad on the tray table, but it was it was definitely like hanging off. I think, let me see, I might have a photo of it. I think I took a photo or a video maybe. So you can see that, but it's like hanging off. Yeah, maybe you can't see that super well because it's dark, but it was like hanging off. So it is a little big. It's like this would have probably fit perfectly. But yeah, I do like it. And the size, like between 11.8 and 13.3, you're getting up there where I think some people that might be like, oh, 13.3 is like what I need, like the Note Max or something. The possibility for it is good though. Like, I'm not saying 13.3 is bad. I'm just saying this is that kind of nice middle ground where it's still like pretty portable. It still feels sleek. And like I thought the 500 plus gram weight was going to be something that like was very noticeable. But like, yes, it does feel heavier than the reMarkable 2 here by, a little bit. Not a crazy amount. It still feels like relatively dense. And because it's distributed more along the size of it, it does not feel, the V-Woods AI paper feels very light and very slim. So yeah, it's noticeable. Like it's a noticeable difference between that, but it is nice. I mean, I'm still definitely certainly excited for some of the A4 devices that are going to come out, like the Note Max. I'd love to check out because I think having split screen on that would be really cool. And then the A4X2. I mean, we're still waiting on the A5X2, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when that comes out, I would be very excited for that for sketching because then you just have like a big kind of canvas that you can sketch on. And so I think, there's a time and a place for things that are big like that. But the reMarkable Paper Pro size is awesome. I think they really nailed it with that. And the gallery screen is solid. And for the way the reMarkable interface works, which is more page turning based, so either note taking or page turning, then it is pretty apt for a lot of these use cases that you would kind of see it in, because it's doing a full refresh. On the books, I've talked to some of the, like Jeffrey Moss, Ed from Organizing for Change, Roderick about Rants About Tech, and like we were talking about, is Gallery going to come to another device? And I think it will, but it really is unclear like who would do that, because the books platform is all Android based, and so running Android apps are more scroll based versus page turn based like this. That is something that I don't think would be completely apt for the technology. Let me get back into something color. This is all black and white. There we go. And so yeah, the actual tech is not the best for scrolling stuff, which the books platform completely is. Here you can see the yellows are very good, very bright, whereas I'm sure if I had this on Kaleido, it would look very dull. So I'll just do a little scrolling here so you can, let's get this in the center here. One thing I've found is I feel like it's hard to, yeah, there you can see the yellow really pops. All right, we got some questions here. Vladimir, hello, can't watch, oh yeah, we saw that. Do you have the A6X2 nearby to compare the size? Yeah, sure. Here it is. I'll pop it out of the case actually. So, yeah, it looks kind of like a beast next to it. But here is, for reference also, the reMarkable 2. So these are lined up on the bottom. And then lastly, I'll throw in the V-Woods. So for reference, if anyone doesn't know, this is a 7.8 inch screen. This is a 11.8. and I'll line up in the corner here. The V Woods is a 10.65. So significantly bigger. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm lining it up on the screen down here. It's the whole V Woods tablet is a little like there's like a minor strip here of screen, and then it goes a bit higher. So I mean, roughly the screen size of the Paper Pro is the size of the V Woods, but obviously less portable because this is an incredibly thin device too. Hopefully that gives you a good comparison, Tay. Then Zenless, do you find RMPP pen painfully imprecise when drawing? I didn't have any e-ink devices before, but I feel like Apple Pencil is much more precise. Yeah, so I talked about that a little earlier. When doing very specific, let me log in here again. So actually here, I haven't shown, this is good for me to show. So let me go to a mid fine liner. Right, if I'm gonna try to I'll try to contour her face, for example. So yeah, sometimes, and maybe it's because I'm not over the device now, I don't want to block it from you guys, but like it's generally pretty good, but I've found sometimes the point where I touch is a little like off in I feel like maybe that direction a little bit more, or if I'm going up, like it's a little below or down, and it's not the like easiest to judge, but that's only really an issue when I'm trying to really like fine line trace something, like that, or down here. Like I find it a little harder to be as precise as I can on the Nomad because I get the ceramic tips here. Oops, sorry, I turned off the light here. I get the ceramic tip, and I feel like here it's always like right under where I need it to be, and just always very precise. But that being said, like some of the sketches I've done on here, I haven't found that to be that much of an issue, or because you can just quickly tap back. Like I can just be like, oh, it didn't line up exactly as I wanted to. I need to shift that way, so I'll just tap back and then like shift that way and do it. So I haven't found it to be like that big of an issue, but at least you don't get the. I mean, the wobble is kind of insane here. That wow, that's bad. All right, I'll be honest, guys. That's the first time I've noticed it that bad, but it's not. It is not good on the edges. These are nowhere. Okay, that's the only straight line I got out of like these 20. Let's see if I go the other way. Yeah, maybe I need to calibrate the marker or something, but the wobble there is bad. You'll see it's not as bad on the main page. That's weird. Okay, let's see. Yeah, a little offset to the left, especially in the bottom left corner. All right, let me try it. Let me get rid of this. Yeah, so I'm looking at it close here. It's starting in front of the tip. It's starting a little in front of the tip. So if I come straight down on it, then yes, it's right below it. But no one really writes like straight down like this, right? You always write at an angle. And so then I do notice it's a little offset. So yeah, maybe I need to calibrate it. But Zenless, let me try down here. You said here versus like here. Okay, interesting. It is actually, it seems a little more precise up here than down here. Yeah, no, for sure. That's a good point. That is noticeable. It does seem like it's right under my pen here, and then here, it's like a little bit that way. Sorry, I can't really zoom in too much here. I mean, I can try. Let's see. Might screw up my focus. Let me see if I can get you guys to see this. Okay, so I'm gonna go right here. If you can see, there's a little like distance between there, right? And then let me go shift this so we're at the top here. You'll see it's pretty much right where it is. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll be honest, I hadn't played around too much with testing that, but now I'm thinking maybe I should try to like recalibrate my marker and just see if that does anything. Let's refocus here. All right, we got another question. The V-Woods pen in terms of precision? Well, let's give it a quick test. So this is the V-Woods. Brian, is it possible to install apps? No, that is I guess part of the appeal of the reMarkable platform. You know, Zenless, the precision of the V-Woods feels like it did on the top right. It doesn't feel 100% like the Supernote does. Oh, where'd it go? Like the Supernote, but the Supernote does have more gap, right? This is your more direct. I think this is 750 micrometers, so it does feel like right on the tip there, pretty much, just like the top right here did. So better than the bottom left here of the Paper Pro. But yeah, I mean, I do like this device for drawing, and so I haven't done like significant tests of the accuracy of it, but because I did like it for drawing, I would assume that it's relatively accurate because it was a good experience drawing on. Is this in focus? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll just scroll through a few more pages here just so you can see the color, and then I will probably call it unless there are any other questions here. I hear a lot about the wobble. Curious when using a straight line function, why is there so much discussion about the wobble? Yeah, Tay, so I did discuss this a little earlier, but I'll just briefly recap it for you. So like, I can snap a straight line like that, which is really nice. I'll get out of here and we'll go to some note taking. Actually, let's go back here. So to answer your question, Tay, like, you know, line stuff's great for stuff like that, like graphs, little arrows, underlining. But this was actually maybe this is a good example. So I gave this to an artist, and he tried this for. It was crazy. He literally, I gave it to this guy. He's kind of a designer, an architect, and like he draws like on the side like professionally. But I gave this to him for like literally like 45 seconds. We were in the middle of like a house tour, and we had like a little downtime, and I gave it to him, and he just started scribbling, and I was kind of in my mind. I was like, what are you doing? And then he just like literally like drew this horse in like 45 seconds, and then I was like, oh, you can change the pen tool. So he did the pencil really quickly, and then he just did like 2 seconds of shading, and then they're like, oh, we have to leave the house, so we had to leave. But in an example like this, Tay, like you can see, maybe I don't know if you can see super well, but when you're trying to get precise drawing lines like contours, maybe I'll go to fine liner. So like, you know, if you're trying to get really precise lines like that, then the wobble can introduce some problems. It's like I can do a straight line, right? Like that, and it's fine, and it's a perfect straight line, but that really comes more into play when you're like contouring stuff, right? When I'm trying to like make a circle, for example, like here, let me do a circle for like the eye. I'll drag one in. There's a little wobble there, and it's it's just not like you're not gonna notice the wobble in writing, right? So if I do, but say not just for drawing, like home. Okay, I meant try horse. My mind is wandering. Okay, horse, right? So the anti-aliasing, I was mentioning this earlier compared to the reMarkable 2 here, is better. Like I do think text generally looks a lot better on here. And so it's clear they're doing some form of an anti-aliasing here when note taking. And so the note taking experience is quite good in general. But that's something that can come into play probably more for drawing, but maybe if you're doing diagrams as well and you're, trying to draw curves on a little chart that you're drawing. So for example, if I draw a little chart here and I'm like, maybe I have a dot here and a dot here and a dot here, and I'm trying to like do a smooth kind of thing there, like there's wobble there. Hopefully you can see that. I'll zoom in. You see here? Like I did not draw that extra dot. I did not draw that extra dot, and there's an insane amount of wobble in there. You see? So from the 1.0 view, like when I'm not zoomed in, it still looks fine. And horse, let's zoom into the horse word here, Tay. So yeah, surprisingly there's actually not much wobble. That's what, like I feel like I don't know if there's like text recognition where that when you write the text and then it renders, it makes it look cleaner. Because this this is clearly not text and it has that wobble issue. Or when you just draw a random line, like I was drawing on the side here, you can see the wobble there. So that's something. But in my mind, there has to be some form of a there has to be some form of a anti-aliasing they're doing because the text always looks better than when you're drawing like a random shape. Um, that's actually another thing, Tay. You just made me think of something. So yes, I remember when tracing shapes had one that had that issue. Definitely making sense. Okay, yeah, I'm glad that's making sense for you. Um, that is something that I also did want to mention. I'm glad you reminded me. So here's a little trick for you guys. If you are drawing, or maybe you don't draw and you just want to like get a shape down, if you like the way the stylus works, I'll just outline this real quick, and you'll notice, yes, I am tracing it. Maybe like, what's he doing? But this does actually, I think, work. So didn't get all of it, but you are able to like generally trace shapes. Um, it works better with paper, so you can see there. This is what is this? This is actually the clamp mount I'm using here. So this is a little bit thicker and it's different texture, but you are able to kind of trace stuff on if you just have a random sheet of paper with something on it. I don't actually have one on hand. This is the best thing I had here, but maybe let's see if I can get this shape here. Let's go to a thin fine liner. Let's try this. So I think that's an example of, and also I could have been shifting this. Maybe if you actually wanted to trace something, just tape it down and then properly trace it. But there is a significant amount of wobble introduced there. I'll zoom in. And so like here, I got a little off, but I could go that and like that. And then I have that rough logo there. But that is an example of wobble. So Thanks, guys. I do have to get going soon. If there's any last questions right now, I'll take it. But otherwise, thank you all for joining and commenting anything. Drop a comment. Like I said, if there's anything you want to see, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. It should launch either tomorrow or Saturday, and in my next live stream as well. Anyways, take care and thanks for watching. Bye.